I exported and imported my app in Apex 24.1, the latest and greatest release, and I no longer have the metadata about which developers have been working on the app. Is this a bug? And to show what happens is, if you bring up an app that you've been working on in Apex, and you might have a team of people working on it, if you go to the front page for that app, you get the list of all the front page. That's a bad choice. If you go to the root directory for that app in Apex, then what you get is a list of all the pages that people have been working on. And you can see it's got, this is actually, I think, Ask Tom, the Ask Tom app. It's got who's been working on it, Eli Feuerstein, that's Stephen Feuerstein's son, if you don't know. Myself, we haven't worked on this for a while, but you can see what the last time we worked on it, who was working on it. A lot of people, especially small-scale Apex shops, effectively use this almost like source control. That, I need to do some work on page one. Yeah, Connor was working on that. He hasn't worked on it for a while. I'm good to go. It's useful metadata to have. I then go export it, and this is in Apex 24.1. I go export the app in the normal way, and then I import it, and this is what you see. And this is the first time you've seen this. You won't see it in Apex 23 and below, but you will see it in Apex 24. That information has been wiped. Now the question is, why would we do this? Well, there's some very sound reasons for doing it, and I'll give you two. The first one is, we wanted to make this a bit more of a consistent experience. Now, what I mean by that is, as you can see, for every single page, we've got this metadata. But if you've ever used Apex, that metadata you'll know is stored everywhere. Almost for every single item you change, any single region, etc., almost anything you change in Apex has this metadata attached to it, which is a good thing. You can always go at the very low level and say, oh yes, John changed this thing 3 days ago. When we exported, we only ever exported this root level data, effectively the updated information for just once for each page. The lower level stuff we simply dropped off anyway. A lot of people were assuming that just because they saw the metadata at the page level, that we were dragging all the metadata with the exports. And when they saw that they'd lost the lower level stuff, then obviously that created some confusion. So we didn't want to sort of say, well, okay, let's just continue with the status quo. We wanted to either pick up all the data or have none. That's, I think, a more consistent experience. The second reason is Apex is now obviously probably one of Oracle's probably most core application development frameworks. The days of just a few thousand Apex apps out there are long gone. Now there are literally hundreds of thousands of enterprise Apex apps floating around the world. And the reality is there's a lot more, as a result, vendors as well, people who are building Apex applications and giving them and selling them to customers. What you probably don't want to do is, for example, have information like your developer's email addresses in here, which are now going out to random customers who then see this information. Or you might, I hate to say it, you may have told a customer you've been actively working on this application and the metadata says, well, you haven't touched it in a year. These are the kind of information that you might not want to pass on to people who are third parties. So we decided the safest way is to strip it off. Now, if you want to preserve that behavior, we've added a new parameter to the Apex export option. Down here in Apex 24.1, and it's included in the release notes, you have this audit information. What do you want? By default, it's none, which means we strip the audit information off. It's all gone. When you import it in, it's gone. So be aware, that's the default. If you choose names and dates, it's not the old behavior. It's not just the names and dates on the basic page level. It's everything. So it's all the names, all the dates on every single place we currently store it. As I said, we wanted to avoid that sort of confusion and inconsistency. If you want audit information, we give it to you for everything now, not just that root level stuff. Or you can choose just dates. Maybe it's just names you're worried about, you want to strip them up, but you're happy to have the dates. But key thing is it defaults to none. So it is a distinct change in behavior from Apex 23 and below. It now definitely is effectively by default to none. So the reason I wanted to stress that is, we've had customers go, it's gone. And we say, oh, well, go back to your previous version of source code control. And they go, what do you mean source code control? Be aware, you need to be careful if you're using Apex and it's your only piece of metadata, your only copy of the source. I can't stress enough. You're going to lose that data if you do export and import without knowing these implications. It is better. I think it's a better approach. It's more consistent, but you really need to take care if you're relying on that information for critical decisions, because it's going to get wiped unless you're careful. But overriding that is, please, Apex isn't a source code control system. You're meant to use source code control, which tracks who does what changes, all that normal stuff. Apex is a development tool. Use the source code control system and then you won't really care. I think in Apex 24.2, the next release, I think we're making some change to that functionality such that if you export with the names or the dates, then that setting will be remembered. So from that point onwards, that application will remember that setting. So as long as you remember the first time, you'll be good to go.